Hi all, I thought I'd look at game 3. So that was a very exciting game. I won't tell you the game result. Karpov was white, he played d4. We have knight f6. After c4, we have g6. By the way, I'm not tempted at the moment to use Rybka analysis. I think maybe it can get a bit technical, but I might do a different flavoured video later with more technical analysis. So let's just see with our own eyes, try and understand the positions that arose. So the fianchetto variation, after bishop g2, d5. So Kasparov is unwilling to play d6, so it will be like a King's Indian fianchetto variation. He wants a kind of Grünfeld flavour to it. So this early d5 sharpens things up a bit, and it's a bit of a provocation strategy because the knight's kind of dancing around now. After taking on d5, it goes to the queen side. So potentially this means a little bit less safety for the black king, but on the other hand, black's idea is to put pressure on the centre and maybe snipe at the centre with c5, maybe knight c6 later, like you would in the Grünfeld. In fact, after knight e2, there's actually an immediate c5, and Karpov didn't want to play d takes because I think just taking the queen on d1 and then knight a4 would give black a good position. So knight a4 here, and black's regaining the pawn and the king sat in the centre of advantage to black. So basically Karpov played d5, and we're going to see in this particular game this d pawn is a great strength as well as a potential weakness. I'll give you a little hint there, but so after e6, it's been undermined at the moment, but Karpov just simply castles. Kasparov castles. Then the knight on e2 goes to c3. So usually this knight would be going to c3, but this knight could still got opportunities for, say, knight a3 to c4 later if there wasn't a knight on b6. So we'll see now after knight a6, Karpov plays a4. So it's simple positional chess. One of the points actually is the rechargeability of this knight on c3. If black took on c3, then the knight here can just take on c3. So white isn't losing this d5 pawn so easily. After ed, knight b4, more pressure has been indirectly exerted on d5, and we have now this strategic battle about it, and really Karpov wants to undermine the black pieces attacking d5. So first though, he plays bishop e3, so attacking that c5 pawn, asking what will black do. And Kasparov plays kind of a tactical move, actually, a tactical defence, bishop d4. So here, if bishop d4, this can't be played, queen takes d4 can't be played because of knight c2. And also, if the knight's dislodged, then maybe Kasparov can play knight b takes d5 kind of safely as well. There doesn't seem to be any devastating tactics here. Although queen takes d4, knight c2, maybe there's queen takes d5 here with the idea of queen d5, knight f6. But maybe black just takes the rook and still is okay, or takes the queen first, allow knight f6, then just take the rook at the end of it. So anyway, after bishop e3, bishop d4, Karpov actually continued with his plan, just a5, just undermining black's control of d5. And Kasparov took on e3. Now here, when I was watching it live, I thought f takes, maybe there's knight c4. And I think black's doing it okay. If the knight can go back to d6, gaining in tempo by attacking e3 first, or even e5 maybe, and black's going to be okay. So Karpov actually just took on b6, so he gave up that bishop just for a knight, which usually you wouldn't do. The bishop's usually considered in general slightly stronger than the bishop, especially in this position. It's not that blocked up, not that closed, but black's losing time now to play bishop d4, and Karpov is temporarily a pawn up now after b takes a7. If he had taken with the rook, maybe that's not as good because b6 is always a target, so maybe just rook b8 and b6 is going to drop later. So he took with the pawn, which I think does provide black with more problems. So now bishop f5. So it looks as though we're getting that that immortal knight octopus game with the knight coming to d3 later. It reminded me of that as I was watching live replay, especially with these knights, you know, sort of being a bit drunken on the side here. This knight, especially on a3, and Kasparov is actually regaining the pawn, but now knight cb5, so it's forking the rook and the bishop. So he's gaining back the dark square bishop. But here, Kasparov actually plays rook takes a3. So an exchange sacrifice. So things are really hotting up on the board now. The bishop takes b2. So white is now the exchange up. Pawn situation, black's got a pawn for it. 5 pawns versus 4 pawns. So rook e3, now queen b6. Karpov protects the knight on b5. Bishop g7. Now rook d1. So where is Kasparov's compensation for the exchange? He plays bishop d7 attacking the knight. The knight goes back to a3, but it's got a good square potentially on c4. So now bishop d4. The rook goes to e7. So these bishops are being, you know, quite badly harassed, and there's a rook on the 7th rank. But there's also something else dangerous in the position which is emerging here. After rook c1, queen f6, it looks as though, you know, superficially black's got enough counterplay maybe with sort of tactical threats in some variations of bishop f2 and knight d3 or knight d3, but it isn't quite there at the moment. I think bishop f2, maybe, you know, the king can just sidestep to h1. It doesn't have to take to allow takes, you know, knight d3. So actually Kasparov's move was bishop b2, and now Karpov simply took on c5, so grabbing another pawn, and Kasparov took on a3. So what has Karpov done here? He's given up another piece, but black's pieces are a bit loose. These are sort of clumped together without any stability. There's no stable pawn structure to peg them into the board, so they're a bit of a liability. And now Karpov plays a move giving his king some air, believe it or not, just playing h4. So we had a very complex tactical sequence, and I think someone commented on the live relay, actually, I think I should mention this, that rook f1 might have been an interesting move as well, because the bishop takes a3 and rook a7. Is there a flaw to this rook a7? This seems to offer white a big advantage if he is regaining the bishop. If there's no clear way to hold on to these bishops, so white would again just be an exchange up, and still with a strong d-pawn. So that's worth mentioning. Anyway, let's go back to the game. So rook takes c5 in the game, and it's about equal again. And to be honest, I have got Rybka running in the background, but I'm not going over the variations. So when I say about equal, I meant according to Rybka, but let's not be the slave to Rybka in this game. So rook a5, and Karpov has actually got a lot of pressure because of his past d-pawn. In fact, I'm going to turn Rybka off completely now because it is becoming a bit of a distraction to me. So rook a5, white has a lot of pressure. How is black, Kasparov, going to save his bishop? So he plays knight c5. So the bishop here is protecting the knight's protecting the bishop. So there's a few conditions here. Rook moves to a7. It was attacked by that knight. Now queen d4. So it seems, you know, black's got active pieces. And when I was looking, you know, at the live, they were both down to about 2 minutes. So it was a very, very exciting position to watch. Karpov played queen e3. So he is the exchange up. Why not just play simple chess and just exchange things off? He's actually forking queen and bishop here. If queen b4, maybe just takes on c5, takes and rook a4, he'll be winning lots of material. So Kasparov took on e3. He didn't want to throw in a check because that doesn't really solve the problems. There'll be even more pressure on c5 and a3 after king h2. So that h4 has been proven to be quite useful. It's not committing any move like bishop f1. It's providing king h2 as a resource. But anyway, so Kasparov took on e3. and now played bishop c1. So this is clever. Rook c5, bishop e3 would regain the rook. After bishop c1, actually Karpov played king f2. So he's still trying to just win material in a clear-cut way. c5 and a4 is liability. So check, king e2. And look at black's pieces now. They're still struggling to protect each other. But now there's a new menace in the position for black, which is unleashed. d6. So all of a sudden, this d-pawn, if the rook's exchanged off with rook a8, this d-pawn's free to run. And black's pieces, although doing the job of protecting each other, they're a bit overloaded to stop this d-pawn. After rook e8, rook a8, Kasparov is now in desperate time trouble as well. And I think he looks at Karpov's clock and gives him the benefit that even with like Karpov left with about 30 seconds would finish him off. So he resigned here. I hope you enjoyed that. Please leave any comments on YouTube. Thanks very much.